welcome to Combat Spuds, the weekly combat sports roundup brought to you by the Midweek Mashed Tattie Sportscast. My name's Mick, and as always, just the same as every other week, I'm joined by Harvey and Paul. How's it going, lads?
Bonjour, Monsieur Michael. How are we? Je suis Paul. J'habite à Air.
I thought it was your Bell.
Oh, that's the one, aye. That is correct.
What's je suis? I don't know. Right, there's no point trying to this because my French is terrible.
Do you know
Je
what's
m'appelle
bad?
Michelle, I can tell you that much.
It's bad that, like, in school you could actually hold a conversation in French. Like,
Ash.
I could
well,
not.
I could. Okay, right. But
I could memorise a phrase.
I could memorise phrases and I could understand words that was been said back to me.
I just used to say
I wouldn't
random
call
stuff.
it an ability to hold a conversation.
I remember, what's her name? Anyway, French teacher. She was, she had always told us, like, keep practicing because you'll forget it if you don't. I would just remind me, like, nah, I'll remember.
Oh,
Years later.
très bien.
Yeah, fuck.
That's what I should have
Very
said when you asked
Very
me how I
good.
was.
Aye. I just used to say random statements that would crack up the teacher because she was a wee angry woman. Like, je suis le table, and she would go, you are not at the table, Paul.
Oh, shit.
Oh, Christ, right.
Nothing to do with fighting, sorry.
Aye, not at all. So, on to the podcast, for which we are recording. Much to discuss today. There's been a ton of stuff going on, so let's get it on. We will kick things off with some boxing news. Or boxing adjacent news, I guess. Triller, a few days ago, came out with some big announcements. They have teed up not necessarily everything that's happening this year, but they've gave us a big picture of what they're planning this year in terms of events. And going back a few weeks when I spoke about them buying controlling shares in BKFC, they've also announced the next few BKFC events along with it. So I'll run through them really quick and then we'll go into the meat and potatoes of it. So it starts off on 21st of April. We've got BKFC, a BKFC event. April 30th, we've got BKFC 24. Presumably the one before that was 23, but it didn't give a number. Then May 6th, we've got BKFC 25. May 7th, BKFC Thailand 2. May 13th, BKFC Fight Night in Omaha. May 14th, we're on the first of the Triller shows. We've got Trillerverse 5. The Trillerverse shows are the ones where they do like so many boxing fights and then they've got musical acts come out and perform as well and they split it between the two things. June the 10th, we've got Triad Combat Club coming back for the second Triad show. For those that are not in the know, it's a thing that happened. Basically, they've got a ring in the shape of a triangle for absolute reasons, and then they have MMA fighters and boxers fight in this hybrid rule set that's absolute nonsense. But
It's a thing that happened.
it is.
I love that.
June the 25th, we have boxing premium event. On July 15th, we have boxing club show. That's in Mexico. On July 16th, we have Blockbuster boxing event, also in Mexico. But we'll come back to that one. That one actually is a bit of a blockbuster. Well, maybe not blockbuster, that's probably not right, but it's interesting. On July 30th, we've got another Triad Combat Club show. And then another one on August 5th. August 27th, we have a boxing premium event. On September 16th, we've got a boxing club show. September 24th, we've got another Triad Combat Club event. And then again on October 7th. Then October 29th, boxing premium event. November 12th, Triad Combat Club. November 25th, boxing club. November 26th, another Blockbuster boxing event. December the 3rd, boxing premium event. And then finally, December 17th, a Triad Combat Club show to close out the year. They've been a wee bit sparse in details on what's what, but what they have announced is the July 16th blockbuster boxing event. They have signed a deal for Andy Ruiz Jr., famous for that one time he beat Anthony Joshua for nearly all the marbles. He's taken on Tyrone Spong, long-time kickboxer.
Kickboxing, man, yes.
Which, for those know so much in the know, probably sounds a bit mental. I mean, to be fair, it probably sounds like something Triller would do, but it probably sounds a bit daft where you've got a former world champion in Andy Ruiz Jr. taking on a former kickboxer who, in his last outing, got beat by an old dude in an MMA fight. But if you dig a wee bit deeper, Tyrone Spong is a very experienced combat sports athlete with a ton of fights across Muay Thai and kickboxing. Very successful in kickboxing. And then decided for a challenge, I guess. Decided to cross over into MMA. He's had some MMA fights. He's mixed results in MMA. And then after he went back to kickboxing and he broke his leg, kicking through a leg kick at somebody, hit the shin, snapped his shin bone, similar to Anderson Silva and a couple other guys. So that's basically kind of ended his kickboxing career. He's never went back to kickboxing. But he did decide once he healed up to move into boxing. So as a pro boxer, he's 14-0 with 13 knockouts. Now, I'm not saying he's been competing against the best boxers in the world, but the guy can box, as you would expect, because he's a kickboxer, so obviously he's got hands, but he's very powerful as well. When you look at it on paper, right, you've got Andy Ruiz Jr., experienced former world champion, 34-2 with 22 knockouts. Tyrone Spong, experienced kickboxer, but as a boxer, 14-0. However, as I say, 13 knockouts or TKOs. So finish rate much higher for Spong, but less than half of the experience Andy Ruiz. But if you look at Spong's career across all combat sports, he's 39-5 with 27 finishes, TKO or KO. Like, the guy is legit. And I think this fight will be probably a lot closer than what many boxing fans will think when they see that, just looking at the names. I think Spong will give him a run for his money.
Aye, Tyrone Spong is
certainly an interesting matchup, isn't it? Formerly the holder of the hardest ever punch. Am I right in saying before obviously Francis Ngannou broke the record?
That's right.
So I mean, it's a good theoretical matchup, like who wins, whose punching power kind of comes through, because obviously Ruiz is quite a fighter himself with a lot of power.
Aye.
He's a powerful guy, quite a kind of scrappy in your face style. Sorry?
Oh, sorry, did that come out loud? I was thinking
Yes, Harvey, that was not in your brain.
If I actually said Spong or Sprong when I was
I don't know what you said, to be fair, but I mean, any which way you want to put it, you've made an arse at now.
Oh, aye.
This went terribly wrong.
Oh dear. Right, so basically the gist of it is, it's a mad fight on paper, but Spong, like, don't sleep on Spong, or he'll put you to sleep, basically. Like,
Spong,
the dude is legit. As I say, his last outing was Eagle FC. He took a short notice MMA fight. He took it in about 2 weeks' notice, 3 weeks' notice. Hadn't trained MMA in years because he's been focused on boxing. But he was unable to get an opponent. He had a couple of fights drop out through lockdown for COVID reasons, and then was basically struggling to get anybody sort of top 20-ish in the heavyweight division to take a fight with him. Nobody wants to fight him because he's no got a name in boxing, but he's a threat. So,
that's the thing,
many of the guys that are trying to push for a title, push up to the top, they don't want to take the risk and fight him. So, I mean, props to Ruiz Jr. for taking the fight, because no many other people are interested. The only people outside of MMA, basically, if you focus on the striking arts, the only people that's beat Tyrone Spong is Jerome Lebonaire, which, if you don't know, is a massive legend in kickboxing. Multi-time world champion, phenomenal kickboxer. Alistair Overeem, right? Uberim. And back when he was Uberim, and he was in an absolute tear in kickboxing. Legit world champion almost everywhere he's been. And Kokan Saki, who's an absolute legend in kickboxing. He's one of the hardest cunts you'll ever see. He's an absolute beast of a human. So they're the only three guys to beat Spong in a striking form of combat.
Aye, simply striking.
Aye, in a striking rule set. So Spong is no joke, peoples. So I'm very much intrigued to see that go down. How it's came to be that it's on a Triller show, I don't quite know. But Triller have signed that up, and that's going to be their first blockbuster. What?
Blockbuster.
Their first blockbuster boxing show.
Fucking block bastard.
Is Ruiz maybe represented by who's the parent company? Triller?
Triller?
Is it Triller? Or they own the other promotion? Oh, sorry. Oh, God.
Triller's the parent company, or Triller Entertainment, or whatever they're cried. And then this is like Triller Combat Club, I think, is the kind of parent company, or the boxing and the triad stuff, the BKFC. I don't actually know what Ruiz Junior's status is in terms of representation and promotion. I don't know if he's signed a deal with Triller. Obviously he signed a deal with Triller, but I don't know if he's signed like a long-term deal with them, or if it's a one-off thing. I've not seen anything come out about it being like a co-promotion or both, but I don't know. Just before I move on, I do have the statement that came out from the CEO, I think he is, Triller, that put it out. When we started Triller Fight Club over a year ago, the goal was to see if we could bring excitement to combat sports and deliver a product that Gen Z would love. Triller's co-founder, there you go, there's his name, Triller co-founder Ryan Kavanagh said in a press release, between Triad Combat, Trillerverse and large Fight Club events, we have done just that. Now that we have perfected the product, I'll spin asterisks against that, I would say, but anyway, now that we've perfected the product, it's time to roll out a consistent schedule so we can dominate combat sports. While we are increasing our volume, we will not sacrifice on quality, there's another asterisk, or on making sure that each event is packed with the excitement people have come to expect from Fight Club events. Each event will deliver broad 4-quadrant programming. Triller Fight Club is certain to be number one. So, I guess more to come on that as we move through the year. But I'm legit excited for that boxing fight. I'm looking forward to that. So I will certainly be covering that as and when. Yeah, so that's July, wasn't it? I said. Aye. So July.
Sorry, I just went on to look to see who represents Anthony Ruiz Jr. And I've just came across this for ESPN that he's not fighting Sprung next.
He's not fighting him next, or he's not fighting him at all?
He's not going to fight. Well, he's actually, instead of fighting Spong, now he's got to be fighting Ortiz. Apparently.
So he's went for exciting fight to fighting the guy that should probably be retired.
I don't know.
That went for...
It says would take place July 16th. Mets will not proceed as planned. So I think signed a contract to fight Luis Ortiz. No, aye. So I get it because they've been working on that for about a year, I think they're saying, and now they've still got to do this Spong fight, but
pushing it back.
Aye.
Well, it's probably going to be blockbuster event number 2 then. When was that? November. Well, from mild excitement to mild disappointment, we move on. Right, next up, troops, we have a bit of a scandal that came out. Don't know if you have heard any of this. The PFL recently aired one of their Challenger series of events. And in America, or part of America, or whatever the crack is, there's a mob called Fubo TV. They are the distribution platform for the PFL in some fashion. I kind of got a deal with ESPN, so I don't know. I'm limited in my knowledge in terms of what happens with American telly. I don't know if it's maybe a streaming service or something. But any which way, Fubo TV decided to tweet out that the show was due to take place or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
For reasons that have not been disclosed, this event was pre-recorded. The first and only time that PFL have pre-recorded an event and not broadcasted it live. And they've stated since this happened that they'll no do that again. They will always be live, right? But for reasons, this was pre-recorded. Fubo TV tweeted out the following. Tonight, PFL Challenger Series brings you their pro debuts. Check out all the action live, capital letters, at 9 PM Eastern, anywhere you can stream Fubo Sports. Hashtag PFL on Fubo TV. Now, what they've done there is they have said something that's already happened is going to be on live. So what's then transpired is some savvy Americans who've seen this went directly to their sports betting apps of choice and placed bets on said fights that had already happened and won some money.
Yes.
So,
oh my God.
Needless to say, there is an investigation taking place because there's some questionable betting going on here.
I can imagine folk are betting their mortgage on something they know that was happening.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Seems iffy.
Got the bookies and then went, oh my God.
So the bookmakers are furious. The bookies are furious. Some of the bookies have refused to pay out, kind of somewhat understandably.
Aye, but that's their own bloody fault. They should know what's being and like.
Exactly. Their job is literally to fucking keep track of which sports are taking place and who's winning and losing and stuff like that. That's literally what they do.
Oh my God.
Yeah, somehow they take the bets. I don't have the words. I guess they had the system set up so that people could still bet on it and nobody was supposed to ken the results, but that seems questionable. Like, really questionable. You shouldn't be able to bet on something that's already taking place. It should be live stuff only. So I don't know. But any which way, a lot of the buck seems to be falling on PFL for some reason. Even though it's Fubo TV, it's their account that's tweeted this out and stuff. Apparently, it's like PFL's kind of taking that in the chin a bit here. So, I've got a couple of wee statements, right? The first is for PFL CEO Peter Murray. It was our only pre-recorded event ever. We have an impeccable record over 4 years of executing live events with multiple sports books taking bets in the US and internationally, and we don't plan on having any pre-recorded events going forward. And he didn't explain, as I say, why that was pre-recorded. There doesn't seem to be much reason for it, but aye. So a learning moment, and it will be a blip, but we take it very, very seriously in our best practices. So aye. US Integrity, who is a Las Vegas-based betting watchdog, they alerted the sports books or the brokers or whatever you want to call them of potentially nefarious behaviour when they realised what was going on. They basically said, stop taking bets, you bloody idiots. Cease and desist. Oh, Christ. So... they realised, so this US Integrity, they realised that things were not right when betting lines for the event started to swing significantly towards the eventual winners. So basically, more and more folk realised what was happening and was looking at the results online and placing bets. The odds are going ski-whiff.
No, you care what it is. Somebody's tell their pals, and then they've told their pals, and then they've get to the bookies, put this on, win some money. Christ.
So
imagine that's like
crazy.
That's mental, man. Imagine like they forgot that the weekend's football had went, and you put a coupon on, like a 20-fold coupon for £1, and you just knew
every single result,
every single winner. Aye, like £1 would get you $500,000. So I don't know, like, but a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Aye.
That's mental.
I can't explain how this is even conceivable. Like, it just shouldn't have happened.
How the bookies did they catch one in the first place? I don't know.
So basically there's an investigation by this US Integrity taking place. I don't know if PFL failed to tell the sports books that, like, this is pre-recorded, so don't take bets on it, and somehow they hadn't bothered to check. Just assumed it was going to be live. I don't know how this has happened. I don't know. Oh dear. Right.
Love it though. The bookies should have to pay it. Fuck them.
Force them to pay out for sheer stupidity.
Aye.
Punish them for being idiots.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh,
moving on from the shambles that was the day's news to the intriguing cloud of smoke that puffs from Paul's nether regions every single week. It's time for Paul's burning desires.
Oh God.
I'll tell you, the smoke is all over the place. That is some burn, I'll tell you right now, lads. Woo! Oh. So, the question this week, lads, and this is a doozy which will drag Mick into the weeds. Wait for this, ladies and gentlemen. Michael, what fight was it that got you into MMA? The single fight that made you say, this is my jam. The one fight where you think is the beginning of your love for mixed martial arts. Also to Harvey as well, but first to Michael.
Now, in the face of it, that should be, I mean, you've been very specific, so it should be a straightforward answer.
But it's not.
But it's not really. Gun to my head, I think I would have to say the Ultimate Fighter Season 1 finale fight between Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin.
Right, okay.
But I'd already been watching MMA for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years or something by that point, on and off. So it's difficult to say that is the one, but it's the one that stands out the most in my mind of, like, watching that live and thinking, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was a kind of, this is it moment sort of thing. There was the rivalry between Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. Played a big part in making a fall in love with the sport.
That's a big deal, yeah.
Michael used to love Chuck.
I was a massive Chuck Liddell fan.
Chuck fan, aye.
The Iceman. So I was really into that, but I was more into the drama and the intrigue of that rivalry as opposed to the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a crossover moment after that, we had Ken Shamrock, Frank's his brother, Ken Shamrock coming back to MMA for the first time in years, having been away in pro wrestling. And he had a big rivalry again with Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz was just like the de facto bad guy at the time. So they had a rivalry that I was really into the rivalry as opposed to a single fight there. And that one really kind of had me because I was a massive fan of Ken Shamrock and the wrestling. I actually didn't know initially that Ken Shamrock was like a legit fighter. I just thought it was a gimmick in the WWE or WWF at the time in the 90s. So I'm trying really hard to not go away in a tangent here.
He's fighting the wheel. Ladies and gentlemen, he's fighting it.
So long story short, watched the lot of events when I could get them. The internet wasn't quite what it is now then.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot harder to get stuff. And I remember trying to get a hold of the early UFC shows, like on tape, man, on VHS. Like the kids these days even came out in VHS tape.
Probably not.
I remember like I going to video stores Like there was a local video store in Cobnock. They used to get in all the old wrestling tapes. I remember like going in and
What one is
trying.
that? The one in
Townhill
the,
Street in Cobnock, across from where the
one-
precinct was.
Oh, right, because mind you used to have the other video store, by Wiley Crescent.
Yep,
That's the one I was thinking of. Aye,
it was
Halfway up
good,
there.
but they didn't get all the wrestling in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, long story long, I think the first time the light bulb went off, and I had that kind of moment of like, this is it, this is the sport for me, was the culmination of that show, and there was a lot of things going on with it. Like, it was a crazy fight, but it was a crazy story as well. Like the Ultimate Fighter was like such a breath of fresh air. Like, reality TV was, I don't want to say in its infancy, but like it was like a bit of a teenager reality TV. Like, we hadn't get bored of it yet, and the Ultimate Fighter seemed like such a fresh concept. To look all these crazy fighter guys in a house and just see what happens. And the cast was amazing. Like, you had guys like Chris Lieben, stuff like that, who were like, Chris Lieben was pretty much an alcoholic at the time. If he wasn't an alcoholic then, he certainly went on to become one. He's sober and everything now, he's doing a lot better, but so he was like peeing in folks' beds and just getting wasted every night, and it was fucking great telly, man. It was just really good. So the more I watched that, the more I get drawn into the UFC in particular, and then in that finale, you had the Diego Sanchez fight, which was kind of bananas, and then you had the main event and the big guys with Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner, and they just had an absolute war. And I remember, like, probably sort of second round of that, I'm thinking, this shit is amazing. Like, I love kickboxing. I love seeing wars in kickboxing, Thai boxing, stuff like that. But like, this was different. 3 5-minute rounds. These guys just booting utter shite out of one another, and it was just amazing. It was utterly amazing. So aye, there you go. That's my answer.
There you go. So Harvey, mate.
Just going back to what you were saying about the Ultimate Fighter. That fight though, I think I remember something. I don't know if you remember this or know this, but I remember seeing something about, as that fight was going on, the more and more people were tuning on the telly to watch the fight.
Yep. There's a crazy spike.
They noticed an uptick. So it was like folk were like phoning people and say, like, you need to turn this, like, put this on the telly. Like,
Dana White's spoken a few times about how that fight basically saved the UFC. The Fertitta brothers had sunk, I don't remember the exact number, but it was something like $5 million into the UFC trying to build it up. Because basically when they got it was struggling, because more and more states were starting to ban it and shit was getting hairy. So they made a lot of changes to start building it back up, but they were just sinking money into it, try to promote it, try to get it legalised in all the states in America, etc., etc. And then it's pretty much a last-ditch attempt. They were in danger of losing their distribution through the networks and pay-per-view and stuff. They were struggling, and so they pitched the Ultimate Fighter show to Showtime. And the only way Showtime would sign it is if the UFC covered the production costs, which is mental. That almost never happens. Like, the TV companies, they produce the shows. That's their job. And they're like, I don't know. And the UFC's like, right, right, look, we'll pay for it. You just need to show it.
I'll pay for it. You just put it on the telly for me.
So Showtime took the chance. And the Ultimate Fighter was a big success in terms of the reality TV show. And then that finale show that the UFC put on with the finals just went mental. And in particular, they have talked about how they saw a very clear spike through that fight with Forrest and Stephen Bonner. And basically the story goes that it was a case of like folk tuning in, and then like after the first round, phoning up their mates and like, hey, get whatever channel it was on, you need to see this. And the numbers just went up.
Belter, man.
And the rest, as they say, was history.
It's history. What about yourself, Harvey? What one fight did it for you?
I'm not really sure, but one of the one I think was no, I seen this a couple of years after it happened, so but it was Wanderlei Silva and what's his name, the Japanese boy, the ones where he knees him and kicks him. Kazuki Sakuraba. Aye, Sakuraba. I seen that and I was like, oh. I was like, oh, aye. But
that would have been a pride fight, aye.
Aye. Actually, do you know what? I think it most probably was you that I seen that through.
Every chance.
But Michael being so into it, I started seeing more and more fights. So
so through Michael.
I think it was through Michael, really. But that one fight was just, I was like, holy shit, man! Mental.
It was funny you should say that.
A war of attrition,
Michael,
if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I can pinpoint the moment to an exact date, lads.
Right.
February 5th, 2011.
Right.
Okay.
UFC 126. Do you know the headliner of UFC 126?
126. What would that be? That'd be one of Brock Lesnar's fights.
It wasn't. No.
Huh?
The toe kick held around
Anderson
the world.
Silva.
Oh,
The very man. It wasn't even like that fight was an amazing fight. It was just the creativity and knocking out a man with your big toe. I was sold. I was like, this is it. And if I remember correctly, I believe that was a college night out. We got probably at least two of you guys, like
Very
where they were
possible.
saying, where folk were saying, go home and watch UFC. It's on tonight. I went home, watched it, half cut.
February 5th,
Epic.
2011.
Epic.
And it probably could have
Aye.
probably been a night out with us, aye.
Saturday night. Yeah.
2 hours for
And
that
it
fight.
was.
Forrest Griffin.
check
beat
out the
Rick
card.
Plant.
that would have been the first year we were at college together.
Aye.
We were the first,
Forrest.
exactly. The first year we were all at college
Aye.
together in NC Fitness.
Aye.
And that was obviously all you guys always talked about UFC and MMA.
Aye.
I put it on myself when I got home and was absolutely amazed at it. And that was the headline of that fight card was the toe kick out of nowhere that
Aye.
sparked a man out on his feet effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, it was TKO punches, but, I mean, he was gone by the time his back hit the mat, like, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
But that was mine, so...
I mean, the co-main event in that was Forrest Griffin and Rich Franklin. Before that was
John
John
Jones.
Ryan Bader.
Ooh.
Aye.
The free fight they gave to Facebook, Demetrius Johnson won against Norifumi Yamamoto.
Oh, that must have been
right.
the tournament to crown the flyweight champ.
Aye.
In fact, I think that may have been the first round of the tournament.
A bantamweight, that was
Bantamweight,
it. Aye.
aye.
Oh, it was before flyweight. Jesus Christ.
Aye.
Aye, so that was a bantamweight contest.
Mhm.
That was before that
between
flyweight.
Mickey
Then.
Mouse. Chad Mendes on the card as well. Cowboy was fight of the night.
Aye, like Cerrone.
It was like a perfect gateway card, man. But the main event always sticks out because of the way he won the fight. Like, just none I'd ever seen before.
Mental.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you
So there you go.
Back memories. Holy moly.
A left field choice because it's not even that good a fight. The Silva versus Belfort fight.
This is going off on a wee bit of a tangent here as I like today. It's funny to me that you view that in such high regard with that knockout.
Aye.
Because like you see it as like creativity and ingenuity, and you know what I mean, there's a comical side to it, there's an amazement and the athletic ability and the timing, etc., etc. Whereas I look at that as like that is like day one basic front kick technique, like
But that's what I mean. See, as somebody who'd never seen it before, that's crazy. Because kickboxers roundhouse and the knee,
aye,
and boxers punch, but this guy just flicked a foot out and knocked a guy flat on his arse.
mm-hmm.
Aye.
Just flicked it up, straight up, bang, right in his teeth. Gone. And that totally was Shocker.
Love it.
Stumped you.
Well, right, let's keep the train moving. But before we do, thank you for the question, Paul. I would like to open this up to the listeners. If anybody listening is a fan of MMA as a whole, or if you're like a big fan of like the UFC in particular, or Bellator in particular, or ONE FC, or whatever it might be, I would love to hear your story. Go to the website, midweekmashedtattie.com, and there's a voicemail button in the bottom right. It just kind of floats there. I think it's blue. I think it's blue. Wee blue button.
It's in blue, yes.
Hit that. You can leave us a voicemail, and potentially you can be featured on the show next week or the week after or whatever. Or alternatively, hit us up on the socials. Send us an email. Whatever floats your boat. I'd love to hear stories of this. This is a cool wee thing. What got you into the sport of MMA, or what got you into your promotion of favour? What was the one fight that flicked the switch and made the light bulb go off and made you realise how fucking awesome the sport of MMA is? So, speaking of MMA, let's talk about boxing. We're going to move on to the recaps. First up, let's come back to you, Paul. How's about you tell us about Conor Benn versus Chris Van Heerden?
Well, I mean, Chris Van Heerden, I knew very little of getting into the fight, South African fighter, but I mean, it as well. He could have been anybody out there against Conor Benn. I really, for my money, this boy has star potential as a boxer. He is phenomenal. Basically, the first round was Conor Benn chasing him for the whole first. He was on the hunt from the minute it got started. And from then on, it was one-way traffic. Obviously, your South African man survives the first round. It was a foregone conclusion, mate. It wasn't if, it was when. And obviously, the when was in the second round, and Conor Benn flattens him. Ref started the count, had a look at him and went, "Oh no, there's no point," and just waved it off. Good night,
nice
Vienna, as they say.
So that's him, what, 21-0? Is that right?
He is, aye. And I think it's on to make a mega money fight with. I see Kell Brook's name get mentioned.
I saw that there was chat. Amir Khan's name get flung about and Kell Brook's name get flung about.
I mean, it's a big celebrity scalp to have, I suppose. But
I think the goal is get a big name, no matter who it is, just as long as they're famous in the summertime at some point.
Get a famous body on your record, I think,
and then he can move on to a title fight. I think that's the goal of it. It's a bit of politicking and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's about a peacocking fronting. I'm kind of the thought that I'd much rather just whoever's next in line. If he's right, like, you know what I mean? If he's chasing, let's say, the WBC title and he's ranked at 10 now, then chase number 9 and number 8. You know what I mean? That's who you should be fighting. Work your way up the ladder, but that's not really how boxing works.
That's them.
So, aye. But I know it's cool to see him winning. I've no managed to see any boxing this week, unfortunately. We were visiting family over the weekend, so I saw what I could. That one I still need to go back and watch. However, sounds like it's not going to take me much time today.
No, 10 minutes of your time. from front to back.
So another boxing match we had on over the weekend was this time world titles on the line. We had Errol Spence Jr. versus Yordenis Ugas. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to see this one either, but I have read about it extensively. Have either of you seen it? Seen some highlights of it?
The Errol Spence fight. I just get the highlights. Looked an even fight until the kind of stoppage. So he obviously rocked Spence a couple of times, but I mean,
seemingly Errol Spence Jr. started a bit slow, and Ugas, I don't know if he was ever necessarily in control of the fight, but he was certainly getting the better of it, I think, in the early goings.
He was giving his share, certainly. Just obviously the kind of accumulation of work for Spence was one of the fight, and fair play him. Like,
times went on, he started to pick him apart. And Errol Spence Jr. is legit one of the best boxers on the planet at the moment. So he's not really known for being like a massively explosive, powerful guy. He's known for being a really skilled boxer. So I guess that's what's won it for him here.
He left his mark on him, certainly. That guy's face was a mess.
10th round stoppage. Well, actually, I believe it was between rounds. I think it was after the 10th round. He couldn't come out for the 11th. I think that was correct. Anyway, any which way, doctor stopped it after seeing the swelling in I think the right eye of Ugas. Basically, his eye was swollen shut. It was about to adjust it. So Errol Spence Jr. appears to now be set to unify the division by taking on Terence Crawford. So that's the welterweight division.
Mm-hmm.
Spence Jr. has the WBA, WBC and IBF welterweight titles. So he's now chasing Terence Crawford, who has the WBO title. So they're looking to do that fight later in the year. So if they can work out the politics and make that happen, that would be a cracking fight. I think my gut says I see Terence Crawford taking that, but I think it'll be close. Right. Let's go back to MMA. We had a couple of cards on over the weekend. So first up, we had on Friday night Bellator 277. Top of the card, we had 2 title fights. We had in the co-main Vadim Nemkov versus Corey Anderson. And then the main event, we had Patricio Freire and AJ McKee. Did you catch any of the fights from Bellator, Trips?
I was on AEW duty, my man. You'll have to fill me in.
No, I can't. No. Bellator. No.
How did it go, Michael?
Unless I'm like reminded on the day about Bellator, I'll.
Marine saying there was a bit of controversy with the Bellator card. Was there a no contest somewhere in the kind of co-main event scene?
Indeed, aye. So there was a clash of heads between Nemkov and Corey Anderson in the co-main event that led to a no contest. So that fight, I want to say that was the finale of their light heavyweight tournament, or was Nemkov already? Did he already win that tournament?
I think he won it, didn't he, against what's his name? Your American guy. He beat somebody for it, did he know?
I think
Bader.
He beat Bader for the title in the semi-final.
Oh, of course, because Bader was sitting champion going into the tournament. That's right.
Pretty sure. Aye, I'm sure this was the final. I think Corey Anderson was the other side of the bracket. Aye, because I remember him winning his semi-final. Aye, this must have been the main. So Nemkov retains the title, with being a no contest and him having beat Bader for the title, but we don't crown a tournament champion. I believe that is what went down here.
Nemkov was champion.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so just a clash of heads then, just unfortunate.
There we go. There's the confirmation. So it was indeed the finals of the Bellator Light Heavyweight Grand Prix.
That's a shame.
The winner would have went away with a $1 million check and obviously the title. However, it was declared a no contest after a clash of heads. And I think it's been talked about that it was like some people sort of saying maybe it was more a headbutt for Anderson, and like he was, I think he was the aggressor in the exchange, so he should have, there's chat that maybe they should have looked more towards disqualification or whatever, but in this sort of situation, unless it's utterly egregious, I generally lean towards a no contest. I think that's like the fairest result, and we will come back to this chat in a few moments when we move on to UFC. It was a weekend for it.
It's unfortunate. I've just seen it right now, man. That's a 1 in a million sort of accident, isn't it? The way they've moved into one another.
Mm-hmm. So, just very quickly, and then we'll move on for Bellator. The main event, as I say, was Patricio Freire and AJ McKee. So AJ McKee was like the chosen one. He's the guy that's came up through the ranks. His full pro career in Bellator, 18-0 in Bellator, looked like a world beater. He, in his last outing, beat Freire for the title at featherweight. This was then an immediate rematch between them for reasons. And I mean, I guess because he was already a 2-time champion, and I don't know. I don't know. It was previously he was the two-division champ. He had the lightweight title as well, but he dropped the lightweight title to focus on this rematch. And his brother, Patricky Freire, has since then won the lightweight title. Anyway, so a wee bit of controversy with this one, just in terms of some people not agreeing with the judge's decision. So ultimately, it's been a unanimous decision for Freire, who's now a three-time Bellator champion. Three-time Bellator featherweight champion. Four-time champion if you include the lightweight title. So I mean, he is a legit legend within Bellator. He's a beast of a fighter, to give him his dues. However, a wee bit of controversy here because some people feel that AJ McKee, including AJ McKee, feel that he did enough to win. But yeah, judges saw it as a clear across the board unanimous decision for Patricio, which is interesting. So the chat from this fight is that AJ McKee has a tough time getting to featherweight, and so he's now with the result here, rather than chase then the trilogy fight with Patricio Freire, which would make a certain amount of sense. He's actually looking to step up to lightweight now.
To fight his brother.
I think he was going to stay. He was going to stay at featherweight because he was the champion, basically. But when he's not the champion, he's like, well, I'm not in the weight cut anymore.
My driver.
He's going to go up to lightweight. I don't know though how they do that. I don't know if they go straight to him fighting for the lightweight title. That makes sense in a business side. That's a big money fight. But I don't know if you want him to move up and fight a contender first, make his mark in the division. So it could be interesting to see the fallout. Patricio has basically said, look, he would be interested in a trilogy fight, but he's not going back to lightweight. He's going the opposite way. He said he's by lightweight, that's his brother's division. He's going to stay at featherweight. So if AJ McKee wants the trilogy fight, he needs to make the weight cut.
Aye.
It is what it is.
It sounds like AJ McKee's doing the right thing because, like,
most likely,
if he's had problems with the weight cuts and stuff, well, leave that there and go up.
Mm-hmm.
If he's good enough, he can be the champion there too. Do a contender fight first, and then see what's what.
Mm-hmm.
Aye.
Yeah. Right. Quite a bit to talk about on UFC, so let's dig into that before we run out of time. So we had UFC Vegas 51 on Saturday night, and there was a couple of controversial moments. I'll fire through the results and then we'll talk about a couple of the fights. So we had Haley Alatieng defeating Kevin Kroom. That one, if you want to watch it, will literally take you less than a minute. It was a 47-second. I don't know. He just ran straight out the top him. I don't know.
It was a wham bam. Thank you, ma'am.
Aye, there you go. Then we had Sam Hughes defeating Estela Nunes. That was a unanimous decision. Majority decision. We then had Jordan Levitt defeating Trey Ogden. That was quite a fun fight. Jordan Levitt's a very interesting character. He celebrates his wins by doing a kind of, what do they call it now? Suicide drop or something. You know, thing like the drag queens in that day, they drop down into splits.
Right.
He does that.
Oh, right.
He does that and then jumps up and does a kind of twerking thing. He's a colourful character, let's say.
Certainly must be if he's doing them, man. Oof.
He's quite honestly, for me, he's a breath of fresh air in MMA, man. Like, MMA, as you can imagine, is just full of like tough guys, basically.
Very serious men.
Aye. So it's fun when you get somebody that's a character like that, or even like Sugar Sean O'Malley, who's, you know, like the bright coloured hair and he's flamboyant and he's loud spoken and stuff like that. It's fun
good to see someone enjoying it.
Aye,
Tuivasa.
Yeah. Aye, Tuivasa. Aye, he's been a big lad.
Big
Speaking of lads, Paddy Pimblett.
Yes. Paddy, oh god.
Well, big Paddy now, he's not cutting anymore.
Aye.
You've seen pictures of him lately. Wow, he
puts the beef on between fights. That's not healthy.
Very big Paddy. Aye, it's Ricky Hatton-esque, isn't
it? The first controversial fight of the night, Martin Boudet defeating Chris Barnett. We'll circle back to that. That was technical decision for Boudet. Then we had Rafa Garcia defeating Jesse Ronson. That was a submission win in round 2. Drakkar Close defeating Brandon Jenkins. That was a good one. That was a TKO in round 2. Pani Kiazad defeating Lena Landsberg. That was a really fun fight. That was a unanimous decision there. Then we had, rounding out the undercard, we had Devin Clark picking up a win over William Knight. Again, fun fight. Really strong start to that one for William Knight. And then cardio became a question mark, and Devin Clark started to pick up the pace and get the better of the fight, and then it was a really good finish in round 3 for Devin Clark. That one's worth checking out. We then had a striking clinic from Munir Laziz, picking up a unanimous decision against Ange Losa. He basically controlled the fight from start to finish, more or less. Then we had Pat Sabatini defeating TJ Larimi. That was another good one, another decision. There was a lot of decisions on this card, but that was another fun fight. We then had Mira Bueno Silva defeating Yanan Wu, and that one was a kind of back and forth fight, but again it was a decision. We then had Andre Fiallo with a big TKO win over Miguel Beza. In the first round. That was quite impressive, man. It was a good finish. It was a good round. You know, both of them had their moments, and then Fiallo just in the last couple of minutes just turned it up and started to land big.
I mean, in his last fight against oh god, what's his name? Was it Ferreira that he fought?
Are we talking about Beza?
No, Fiallo.
I don't
Was
remember.
it not Michel Pereira? One time he looked very good, because this is Fiallo's this is his second fight in the UFC. It was Michel Pereira,
I
wasn't
think it was. Aye.
And he did look very good against them.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up losing that fight, didn't he? But
that's right.
Good. I remember. Aye. No, he's just showing that.
Aye, that's right. He handled the. He did a really good job initially of handling the craziness for Michel Pereira. That's right, man. I well remembered.
It's a bad run for Beza now. Going on. I mean, that was one of the fights of the year against Ponzinibbio last year.
He's a fun fighter, but he needs to start thinking about. He needs to start thinking about being the other side of the wins and losses here, or he's going to be in trouble. Being a fun fighter only lets you hang on for so long. Eventually, too many losses, you're out the door.
You're a goner.
Co-main event, we had Caio Borralho versus Gadze Omargadzhev. Sounds like a name, so we'll go with it. That was the second of the controversial decisions. So we'll come back to that in a second. Main event of the night, we had Bilal Muhammad defeating Vincetti Luque, getting some sweet revenge there. That was a rematch about 8 years in the making, I think. The two of them fought when they were both just broke into the UFC. And Vincetti Luque, I think, won by TKO in the first fight. So Bilal Muhammad picking up a unanimous decision here. So the controversial decisions, why were they controversial? So basically the first one, Martin Boudet and Chris Burnett. Boudet was getting the better of the fight. I need to mention this, right? Unprofessional. But every time I say that name, I think of Boudet, like the toilet thing.
A bum washer.
I don't know if there's a better way to say that name. But anyway.
Did you see the video I sent you?
No.
The slow motion bum wash reaction, for the bidets. I did.
Oh, that, aye.
I did indeed see that.
Where the boys go to the bidet.
Right, back on topic. So I'm just going to call him Martin for the purposes of this discussion. Martin was controlling the fight against Chris Burnett. And basically it was the size, it was the frame of Martin was the problem. So Chris Barnett's a 5'9" heavyweight, which, I mean, try and process that in your brain for a second. The guy's 5'9" in all directions. He's
aye.
I was going to say blob, that's no fair to him. He's
a wide guy.
He's stocky. He's a sturdy, stocky
Thick
man.
with two C's. Thick with two C's.
Indeed he is. So, anyway, he's bloody athletic for it, man.
Aye, he is.
He's got no business being that athletic. He's over 260 pounds as a 5'9". MMA athlete, and somehow he is like actually an athlete. Anywho, he was struggling with the overall sort of size and frame of Martin. He was swinging bombs. He was doing all right in the clinch, but he was struggling to control the frame of Martin. And over the course of the fight, slowly, Martin Boudet was taking more and more control of what was happening. And we got to the point of he had Chris Burnett against the cage, and Burnett was leaning over and he had one hand on the mat. And then Boudet, for reasons, decided to throw a knee. I guess he thought it was okay at that point. I don't know if he didn't see the hand down or if he thought that any which way, it was an illegal strike at that moment in time. He threw the knee. It was a bad knee. Chris Burnett, like he didn't take it particularly well. He almost immediately fell to the canvas and was like on his face and clearly in a bit of trouble and pain. What's his name? Big Dan Margliotta, the referee, he stepped in, paused the action. He took a point from Boudet for his transgressions, and gave Chris Burnett some time to recover, brought a doctor in, etc., etc. Ultimately, it was decided that Chris Burnett could not continue. Now, because they elected to not disqualify Martin Boudet, because they were saying that although, yes, it was an illegal knee and there was some other shots in there that led them to take a point away, it was in fact not a deliberate foul, so they were not going to disqualify him. And what that meant is that because they were into the third round, they went to a decision. And because he was controlling the fight, the decision went his way. Now, I don't disagree that he was winning the fight, but I do disagree that he should have won the fight. I think under that circumstance, that should be a no contest.
Yep.
You shouldn't get the victory for an illegal shot, regardless of the intention behind it.
Intention or not, yeah. If it's an illegal blow, right, and the fighter can't continue, if you deem that, okay, it wasn't intentional, there was no malice behind it, then it should automatically be no contest. If there is malice behind it, then he gets a DQ, and the other fighter wins, right?
I need to, Harvey, I need to pause you. I need to very quickly correct myself. I've mixed up these two fights. The hand down, that was the position he was in, but it wasn't a knee. It was an elbow to the back of the head. Yeah,
elbow to the back of the head. I was confused.
Aye.
I don't know why I did correct you, but anyway. There's no malice there. Because you can see when he comes down, he hits him right in the back of the neck, and that's what's caused like the doctor to say, well, no, he can't continue. I'm with you there, Michael. Obviously, Martin at the time was winning the fight. If that continued to the end of the fight, he would have he would comfortably have won that fight. Okay, but I disagree with him winning the fight in that manner. I think it should have been a no contest.
Yep. Just to very quickly tie this up before we move on, we then had a very similar situation in the co-main event of the night, where we had Kyle Borrallo picking up a similarly dodgy win against Gadzi Omar Gadzhiev. That one was the knee. So basically, Gadzi was I think more or less in all fours. He started getting up, and then Borrallo's just let the knee go too soon, effectively. Landed a big knee. Gadzi couldn't continue, and it was the same deal. So he's picked up the technical decision. Again, like, clear illegal shot, regardless of his intention. So surely that should be an immediate no contest. If you don't want to make it a disqualification win for the guy that got fouled, fair enough. If you feel it wasn't that egregious, but surely you can't have the other guy win.
Yeah, no.
I think actually, right, see, to just fully iterate my point, this is my reasoning behind it. I realise I've just said it and I've not gave a reason. As much as the one guy might be totally and utterly in control of the fight, if there's, let's say, 2 minutes left in that 2 minutes, the guy that's getting beat could knock the other guy out or submit them. They could win the fight.
Aye.
But by them landing a foul, they've taken that opportunity away for that person.
Yep.
So I can't see a reason for saying that the person that's committed the foul should win, because what they've basically done is created a circumstance, whether they've intended to or no, they've created a circumstance where the fight has finished early without them winning the fight at that point, and then the decision's just been given to them because they were getting the better of it previously. It just doesn't sit right with me.
No, that's one of the rules I would change if I could. Aye. It's no good, because 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds in a fight, it's a long time.
Aye. Literally anything within the bounds of the competition could happen within the minute or two.
How quick does it take for my foot to get to your head?
These days, I don't know if I can get there.
3 weeks.
It's a bit far away. Aye. No, your head. Where's somebody else's head? Who's there?
And that's in the same room.
It would take less than a second. Like, you know what I mean?
Like,
so, I mean, aye. Karate chop.
Oh dear. Right. Before we tie a pretty bow in this episode, Harvey, do you have a highlight for us?
I do have a highlight. I don't know if you're going to like it though, Michael.
Oh Christ.
Oh no. What hero is getting sparked here?
No. So my highlight this week is Jake Paul.
What for?
Is Jake Paul Michael Bisping thing.
Oh, right, okay.
So obviously,
thanks. We have been the Midweek Mashed Tattie. Bye bye.
Cheer bye. At the time. Sorry, Harvey.
So obviously with Jake Paul calling it. Well, he didn't call him out. He has him on his list of folk that he would like to fight. As you'd say. I think this comes from when Michael Bisping had called both Logan and Jake Paul cowards. Because they have a habit of challenging fighters who are smaller than them, which is very true. So it was after that Jake Paul's hit list, if you wish to call it that.
Yep.
Had Bisping on it.
A retired fighter who is blind in one eye.
Retired fighter, blind in one eye. Right, exactly. So Michael Bisping then says, do you want to fight Jake Paul? He's like, he says, listen, I've had a great career. I'm very happy with what I've accomplished. I'm retired, happily retired. But I do miss the thrill of competition. I don't see Jake Paul as necessarily a threat. I retired from fighting because I only have one eye, and I don't want to risk my other eye. And boxing, the bigger gloves against Jake Paul, again, I don't really see him as a threat. So, he's like, so Jake Paul beating you up sounds like fun, of course. You are a big star, and God bless. Like, well done to you, sorry. God bless, well done to you. I'm not hating. You've done great things. All jokes aside, you've done great. You're earning a lot of money. You're a big star. You're getting a lot of pay-per-views. And so for that reason, I probably would. So, is that a yes or a no?
Here's the thing.
But Jake Paul did say that if he could get a license, but I don't think Bisping will get a license. One.
I
don't think he'll fight him.
There's no reputable board of athletics in the world that would license Michael Bisping to fight again, now knowing that he's entirely blind in one eye. However, I don't doubt that there is Florida. Well, maybe they would.
Mate, if they let what's his name fight the other day? Of course,
Evander Holyfield fought in Florida.
Exactly. Holyfield.
Or what was left of Evander Holyfield fought in Florida.
So I mean, they're not going to have a legit boxing match. Maybe they could do an exhibition somewhere. Maybe they go to Florida and do an exhibition. But that's something I don't need to see.
He
Brisbane
also
doesn't
called
need to
out Sonny Bill Williams. That wouldn't mind
He
seeing.
did that.
Sonny
didn't
Bill
he?
would run over him, man. What's he thinking?
Sonny Bill's a massive big guy.
Sonny Bill is, I want to say he's something like 110 kilos these days.
He's also a heavyweight boxer.
That's what I mean.
In
And
his
like,
spare
Jake
time
Paul's
for
90-ish kilos
giggles.
for these fights.
Aye.
Sonny Bill's,
Aye.
he's probably got about 20 kilos on him. Like, he's considerably bigger.
Easy.
Bigger, aye. But then again,
He's a much
like,
bigger guy.
they're very smart, aren't they? Or, well, the people around him are very smart. If he goes and fights against Sonny Bill Williams, it's a win-win for him. If he loses, oh, well. Look at the size.
He's so much bigger.
He's 40
Sonny
pounds.
Bill was very respectful in the response, by the way. He actually praised him and said, "It's all love, man. Really appreciate what you've done for yourself."
Well, this is my thing.
Good play.
One of the parts of the highlight here is this is Jake Paul trying to stay relevant again. You haven't heard from him in a while, have you? And now, all of a sudden, he's putting all these names out there. He's trying to stay relevant. His brother's on WWE. Right. He's... Anyway.
We just can't escape them.
Well,
No.
all jokes aside, that is all the time we've got.
On that note.
I'm moving us on for that. I've heard enough. Very quickly, before we round it up, or well, in the process of rounding it up, I just want to run through the fights that we've got next week. It is a busy week for combat sports. In the boxing, we have the big British showdown between Fury and White. That's happening on Saturday, April 23rd at Wembley Stadium. For reasons, here's a tidbit. 94,000 sellout. Apparently it's going to be the biggest boxing event on British soil since the end of the Second World War. I don't know what fight sold more tickets than that back in the days, but I don't know. I've no idea. I've not to add, but there's a random wee fact. Massive fight. Which I don't really get that much. I mean, I don't know. It's maybe White's got a bit of a cult following in England, but I mean, they heard him. Like, I enjoy his fights, but I'm a wee bit bemused. Is Tyson Fury that big? Like, is he the only reason this is sold out, or has White actually got enough of a following that he's added to it?
I think he's got enough. I think it goes back to that British. It's a British showdown, isn't it? So imagine if it was AJ and him. Well, anyway.
Well, that's a thought, man. You know what I mean? If this fight's doing this, what would Fury and AJ do?
Exactly.
What's the biggest arena in the UK? The Principality Stadium?
Principality or Wembley, I think.
I think it's
close.
I think it's
Close
Wembley.
between those two.
Wembley
Probably
the
is Wembley.
I think so.
So they probably couldn't cram many more seats in. Oh well.
Aye.
They might try and push for like 95 or 96,000. If they reconfigure it a wee bit, just so as that sold more. But that fight happens, who knows. Anywho, so over to the MMA side. Middle of the week, April 20th, as I spoke about last week, we've got the season opener, 2022 season opener for the PFL. The biggest fight of note on there for me as a Scottish MMA fan is Stevie Ray making his comeback to MMA. He's taking on Alexander Martinez, but there is some other fun fights in there. What I want to mention is if you feel like staying up for it, it will be shown live on Channel 4. Right, so the deal is fully kicking in on Channel 4 now. I believe they're just going to show the main card, so I think it's going to be 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. From what I can see on Channel 4 in the UK. And that, as I say, is on April the 20th. So I think that, technically speaking, then would be April 21st by the time you're watching it, but the night of the April 20th. Moving on, Bellator, for reasons, are doing a double headliner thing, big event in Honolulu, Hawaii. They're doing 2 nights. Bellator 278 on Friday, April 22nd. The main event is Juliana Velasquez versus Liz Carmouche for, I want to say, the bantamweight title. Then on Saturday, April 23rd, same arena in Hawaii, they are doing 279, Bellator 279. That's a double headliner. You have Juan Archuleta versus Rafion Stotts, and then you have Chris Cyborg versus Arlene Blencow. So 2 title fights at the top of that card. You also have on the second night on the main card, you've got Lima McFarlane, who's a former champion. I think she was the bantamweight champion previously, I think, for the women in Bellator. She's taking on Justine Kish. So she sorry, I don't know if I said that or not. She's Hawaiian. That's why I'm mentioning that one. She's a big star in Hawaii. And then finally, again, Saturday, April 23rd, we have UFC Vegas 52. Main event is Amanda Lemos versus Jessica Andrade. And there's a few fun fights on there. So I think we will leave it there. There is a lot to see next week, so we're going to have a lot of recaps to do. So prepare yourselves for that. As I say, check out the website. Keep on top of what we're doing. Please spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family, all about us.
Tell your mom.
Get your mother tell, right?
And your dad.
Send her to the website. Check it out. Please let us know your thoughts on your sort of big fight that got you into MMA, UFC, whatever your penchant is. I don't know the word I'm looking for. I was looking for a French word, but I couldn't come on.
Penchant.
Anyway, if you have been, thank you very much for listening. I've been Mick, they've been having Paul. We shall see you again next week.
Gangankali. Bye bye, driver.
Bye.
Driver.